Good morning. I woke up this morning with some things on my mind, and I just need to go over them with you. Um, I'm going to start doing my card pulls live just because I like to be able to check in with everybody and see how you're doing, and also kind of go over some things that I've been pondering in the week that, I can talk about the following week. Um, so I pulled some cards yesterday, and I pulled piles. So I did 3 cards in each pile. And I'll put those up. I'll still put those up on the blog just because I've already pulled them and they're really good. They're good messages. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll put those up there. But I will also pull some cards today. But first off, Happy New Year. It's a new beginning, and hopefully a lot of people can step into that and allow the past to slip away, old things that aren't serving you anymore. Seems to be a hanging on to of old thought and old perceptions that isn't actually helpful to where we are today, especially with regard to gender identity. And I don't think enough people talk about that, especially people in the healing world or the psychic world, because they're too afraid to speak about, you know, um, such a heated topic. But it's something that needs to be done, and I'm going to talk about it because doing past life work, I see people coming in all different forms over and over again in they're all different nationalities, they're all different genders, they're all different sexuality. They have completely different lifetimes over and over again. And we've got a large group of people who've been coming in for many, many years. And we're seeing it even more so now because we've got the generations prior who are helping their children to be able to be who they are in this lifetime. And it's heartbreaking to see families turning their back on, especially children or teenagers, when life is already so hard for them to fit into this world, being so sensitive and still feeling all of those feelings from those lifetimes that they're still associating with. And so I thought it was time to stop, hiding behind my blog and to start showing myself on here and start talking about the things that I've seen, the things that I've witnessed, having been doing past life work for so many years, and also, you know, um, being involved with the LGBTQ plus community, um, with so many friends and family members, and you know, seeing the heartbreak that these, especially the kids, are going through. That, this world is already tough enough being a sensate or a clairsentient being. And the kids that have been coming in are clairsentient beings. They are gifted. They have psychic abilities. They know who they are. And when you sit there and you try to tell them that's not who you are, you will be who I've labeled you, or you will be how I expect you to be, they're not going to bow down to that, because that's not why they come here. Okay. The biggest thing that is really frustrating to me is to see um, these kids in such pain because their family refuses to accept them, for who they know they are. Their soul knows who they are. They're not in danger of, burning in hell or whatever you believe because you believe it. It has nothing to do with who they are and what their soul knows or what their beliefs are. And you can't force someone to bow down to what your belief system is because you're afraid to look at your own belief system. You have bought into something that has been handed down for many, many years that is not healthy. It suppresses people, it suppresses women, it suppresses children. It takes away people's own faith and their own connection with their God that they know is there within them. Your interpretation of what you say Jesus said is your interpretation. All books are written by men, and even the ones that were written by women have been rewritten by men and claimed as theirs. I don't know. I mean, personally, anybody that I know would not turn their back on their child because of their own fears. If you have friends like that or family like that, you need to speak up, say something, because, you know, that old way of thinking is gone. We've got to embrace who people are today. We've got to allow them to be what their soul intended for them when they came here. And you can't see all the things they see. You assume because of their age that they are, being misled or being, influenced or being deceived and all these other stupid shit that I hear. But you know what? They know. They come in with their psychic abilities still intact. They absolutely 100% know who they are. Our soul doesn't have an identity. It doesn't have a gender. It doesn't have it's not confined by time and space. And these kids that are coming in here, they're not confined by time and space either. Their soul is still androgynous. They can choose whoever the fuck they want to be in this lifetime. And I'm sorry if you don't like that, but that's the reality of it. And no matter how much you push back or threaten or try to suppress that, it's not going to happen. So get with the times, evolve, love your children and your grandchildren, especially for who they are right now. And if they can't do that for you, I'm here. I'll be your grandma. I'll be your mama. Don't worry about that. I'll be your great auntie, whoever it is that in that lifetime that you've chosen in this lifetime here that doesn't want to accept you. I'm happy to take that role on. And there's millions of other people out there who are happy to take that role on. I'm tired of not saying what I need to say. And I just need to get out here and say, I grew up knowing who I was, and my sexuality has nothing to do with it. I'm happily married. My husband's amazing, but my children, they are who they are, regardless of what anyone wants to put on them of their labels. And I will always support them 100% in whatever they decide to do. And I'll do the same for you because somebody needs to fucking stand up and say something. Okay. Now, I'm going to pull some cards and just go over some things with you. So first off, this morning I sat here and I thought, okay, sit here with my guides for a bit, and I'm going to ask them to give me 3 cards to kind of tell me where it is that I'm supposed to be going in this next year. Because in all honesty, I just want to create and I just want to talk to people. So that's where I think I'm going to be going. And so I figured this was a good platform to do that. So, and then of course I pulled the cards, and it's absolutely amazing because, some of you that know me know I freaking love to crochet. Like that's my thing. It's where my soul is at peace. It's where all the voices stop. It's where everything slows down and nothing else matters. And I can dive deep within my soul. And that's also why you see a lot of these people that you say, can't be who you want them to be. They want who they want to be, who they are. Um, a lot of them crochet. A lot of them have crafts. A lot of them are bringing back some of that old stuff that you don't do anymore, because it's the same thing. It shuts off all the bullshit and allows us to just be who we are within that moment. Um, when you stop and you look at how humanity has evolved, especially the last 10 years, my God, it's absolutely amazing. You can hand a kid a ball of yarn and a crochet hook, and within 2 weeks they know how to crochet a fucking sweater, right? When I was little and I learned how to do that, it was because spirit was there with me. We didn't have the internet. It was 1970s, 1978. I walked up to my grandmother and showed her a scarf I made, and she looked at me and said, "How did you do that?" And I said, "Aunt Margie showed me, and Grandma Christine." And she told me basically that I was possessed by the devil and to go get a switch so she could beat the devil out of me. Okay. So for years and years, I shut down both my psychic ability and my ability to crochet. And you know what? It doesn't go away. All it does is make you miserable for many years, self-defeating. I put myself in a lot of bad positions because I doubted myself and I doubted my intuition. And I'm not going to let that happen to other people. So I'm going to be here for you. And if you have any questions that you need answered about your abilities, about what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what your body is going through, because there are physical things that are different for us, I'm here to answer those for you because, you should be able to get this information freely. And so I'm here to do that for you. So back to the cards. I asked what my purpose is, and I've been talking to a really dear friend of mine, Philip, and he's been saying that I need to get more into doing crochet work. And I was like, okay, let's talk about that. So he's been helping me. And Philip is absolutely amazing. And I'm sure you'll meet him at some point because I'll probably have him on here. So I got the first card that I pulled was what the question was, what is it? Where should I be going in the future? What should I be doing in the future? And this is the card that I pulled, the Weaver. Okay. The Weaver is the Queen of Scrolls. And this card in this deck, which is the Chrysalis Tarot, which is one of my favorites, okay? This deck, this card talks about being able to see between, being able to see beyond black and white, being able to see beyond what is perceived by the majority and being able to create something beautiful out of that. And that is absolutely what I want to do. Okay, so that was a really good card. Then I asked what's going to come from me doing my work. And I got this card, which is the Three of Scrolls. And you see the little fox there, and it's got that little lavender tear. And this card talks about being able to see what is coming, knowing that there's going to be hard times, and being patient, waiting until the timing is right. And so it's really interesting because the place that I pulled this being, I know there's going to be a lot of times that are hard, but you know what? There's already people who are suffering. There's already people who are that little fox sitting there with their tear waiting to be able to come out of the bushes and say, this is who I am, because of old ideas, old beliefs, things put in front of them that they had no choice over. Okay. But they're still who they are regardless. Okay. So that's the next thing that's coming up. And then the third one was, where is this going to take us? Okay. And this is the card that I pulled, Ariadne, the Death card. And look what she's holding. It's a freaking ball of yarn. Okay. This card is the most significant and what made me actually make this video. This card talks about giving that ball of yarn to everyone going into the labyrinth so they can find their way back out. Okay. I'm happy to talk with your grandma. I'm happy to talk with your parents, your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, whoever. People need to not be afraid to have conversations that are uncomfortable. This is about going deep inside, finding out why you have those fears that stop you from accepting people for who they are, and helping you to find your way back out with that knowledge and that information so that you can be who you're meant to be. You are not the story that you've been told your whole life. And so maybe looking at your children and your grandchildren will be the way that helps you to find yourself again, rather than what society has programmed you to believe or what your cultural beliefs are around you. Stop and look at the pain that you're causing to the people that you say you love. Just stop for a moment and look into their eyes when they're showing you their most intimate feelings. If you are still staring at them and judging them rather than opening up your arms and holding them, then they're not the problem. Okay. That's enough of this bullshit. Just fucking get on with life. Okay. We're here to enjoy ourselves. We're here to create. We're here to love. We're here to expand our soul's evolution. We're not here to control and belittle and demean and try to steer people the way that we feel they should be living their lives, because in all reality, this is only a snippet of what's out there. This is one timeline that you're focusing on at this time. There are multiple realities, there are multiple timelines. And if you can't figure out how to align yourself with the timeline that's going, you're going to find yourself alone on that old timeline because everybody else is moving over to the new stuff. Okay. And I'm not talking about because they're being influenced. That's not what it is at all. It's about awakening your higher heart, your connection, where you connect to other human beings is your higher heart. It's not down here. It's not your physical body. Um it's not any labels. You cannot define what a soul is. A soul does not have those labels that you try to put on it. And these people that are here, our family that are here, the new people know who they are, and you cannot take that away from them. No matter how afraid you are, no matter how you think you're helping, you're not helping. You're actually causing them more distress. These high suicide rates we have is because our families reject us. And I say our because we are all one family. It doesn't matter what your genetic makeup is, or even what species you are, to be honest. We're all connected. And so when you're causing pain to your grandchild or your child or your niece or nephew or your cousin, brother, sister, it doesn't matter. You're causing pain to everybody. You need to learn that your beliefs don't dictate how that person, however they identify, will live their life. Okay. So I'll get off my soapbox now for a little bit anyway. So that was the first card pull. Okay. And then after I did the card pull, I had a poem pop in my head. So I wrote the poem. So I'll read you that poem as well. Okay. And I'll put this up on my blog so you can get a copy. If you need to send it to one of your relatives, that's fine. I will let you do that. Just make sure you credit who wrote it. Okay. So this is coming through me. So this is from my guide group. Okay. And it's on behalf of all of you who are struggling with getting someone to understand who you are. Okay. So I've written this for you. Who are you to tell me that I know not who I am? You are blinded to my truth, as I've known since time began. My soul is not in peril, for I'm not the one deceived. The path I've chosen this time is yet to be perceived. Asking for equality, you fought for many years. In mass, we've come to help you, to push back all your fears. The Great Mother sent us here to soften all your hearts. To change this world together, at home is where it starts. My soul is but a spark, a burst of the divine, a star-filled mass of energy, not held by space or time. It remembers all our lifetimes, each one a different form. So we choose this time around which one shall be adorned. We embrace you fully. We love you as you are, and ask the same in return, for we are but a star. Okay. And that's all you need to know. And thank you to my guides for bringing this through, because I feel this really, really deeply. I can't even, even if it's not dealing with a gender identity, even if it's dealing with, a different belief system or a different way of living. There are so many aspects to coming here and incarnating that people cannot perceive. They have no idea of what's outside of, their everyday life. They limit themselves, all the time I get asked how I can possibly do everything I have or do on a regular basis and still have, my own health struggles that I deal with. And it's all about knowing what my boundaries are and knowing where there aren't any, where those are something that someone else has told me I can't do, or that I am not able to do within a certain time frame or whatever. I haven't lived within this timeline for a very long time, most of my life actually. And I'll go into a little bit more about who I am and why I've come to be, what I do now. But this video is about, you know, trying to stop that pain that is just pervading all of these new people. Um, you're not alone. There's a lot of us out here who have been walking this path for a long time as psychics, as sensates, clairsentients. We know your pain. We've walked this path. It may not be exactly the same, but we do know the feeling that it brings up in us. Having to suppress who you are in any form is oppression, you know. So you can't bitch and moan about equality, and then when a whole group of people come in who want equality and you try to tell them they need to not ask for that, is absolutely hypocritical. How can you ask for equality amongst the genders as women and then turn around and tell your child you won't accept them when they tell you they engender both male and female and they want to be non-binary, or if they want to identify as a male or a female, or if they want you to call them by a certain name? Stop and think about that. It just absolutely does not make sense. I don't care how long you fought to try and change things. This is where the answer lies. How can we have inequality when we have people who are androgynous? There is no better definition of that than being able to accept who someone is or who they identify as. It just doesn't make sense to me. So, all right, I will go and pull a couple other cards here. And I'll put this up on the blog so you can look at that. Okay. So I'm just gonna pull something for this week, just to see what we've got going on this week. Okay. So let's just pull a couple cards for this week. This is until next Tuesday, because I'll do this again next Tuesday, if not before then. We're just going to pull a few cards and see what we're up against here. Okay. Okay. So this is the Earth Magic deck. Okay. I'll put the link below for the decks that I use. Okay. First one is Stone People, Vigilance. You know, this is the thing that we need to stand up and be vigilant. We need to stand up and be that mountain that won't be moved. Stand up for our children, stand up for those children that's families have abandoned them, you know, as mothers especially, and as fathers. There's no reason to turn your back on your family about over something that absolutely has nothing to do with you other than your own ego and your own fears of how you'll be perceived by your groups, your cliques. That's the only reason that I can think of why anyone would turn their back on family. Okay. You also have River, which is movement. You know, you can go with the flow. You can go jump into the river, go with the flow, or you can fight against it and keep on wearing yourself out until you go under. Okay. If you jump in the river and you allow the river to guide you where you're meant to go, you'll go smoothly. It'll go beautifully. If you try to fight, you're going to end up bashing yourself up against some rocks. You're going to wear yourself out. You're going to, you know, it's just you that does that. It has nothing to do with anything. So stay in the flow of where the energy is going. If your family won't accept you, this goes for you as well. Stop trying. Stop trying to make them understand you. Live your life as you are, and eventually they'll either come around or they won't. And that's fine. They don't have to, because the other part of evolution is that not only can we choose what gender we want to be, we can choose what family we want. Okay. And if your family won't accept you for who you are, there's plenty of people out there who will accept you and call you family. Okay. So that goes for both sides of this and anyone in between. Stop fighting where the energy is flowing. If you keep banging your head against a wall, eventually you're going to knock yourself out, right? That's just silly to keep doing that. And we've also got the Milky Way, which is perspective. It's just about shifting perspective. Shift your perspective from the timeline you were born on, where you're not being accepted, and shift it into one where you are. Surround yourself with people who accept you for who you are. Surround yourself with people who will encourage you to find what your purpose is here, rather than spending time trying to tell someone who you are. You already know that. You don't need someone to validate that for you. So you turn around and you go find out what your purpose is. And then you show them through living your life the way that you want to and being joyful that that's who you are. Okay. So that's the first set. Okay. And that sounds pretty good for this week. So it's just about, set your boundaries, set those boundaries. And I don't care who you are, what side you're on of anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your political beliefs are, what your religious beliefs are, what your gender identity beliefs are. I don't care what it is. It can be that you have a partner that treats you like shit and you just take it. Put your boundaries down, okay? If you don't put boundaries down, people won't respect them because they don't know they exist. But you also have to put down your boundaries and then be able to talk about why you have that boundary. And that goes for everybody, okay? And I know I'm kind of all over the place because that's the way my mind works. And that is another thing that we will talk about at some point, is autism, ADHD, all of those things. Yep. OCD. Yep. Okay. So those are all part of being a psychic person. So now I will pull just a card here. I want to pull this. This deck I got out is for those of you who are really trying to understand why someone can't accept you. This deck is about why. Okay. What is it in that person that's not allowing them to see who you are or accept you for who you are? Okay. So let's see what they have to say here. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, these make total sense. One more. Okay. All right, now, one of the things we do have to do is, yes, we set boundaries with people. We also have to be compassionate for who they are and the life that they've lived thus far as to why they think the way that they do. Okay. And that doesn't mean we don't live our lives the way we want to, but we also need to be able to understand and stay in our compassionate nature because that's who we are anyway. So the first one I pulled is radical curiosity. Seeing as F for the first time every time. This is what has been missing for a lot of people, okay? They have forgotten how to see through their own eyes. They've been conditioned for many, many years to see through the eyes of what is presented to them as what's acceptable, okay? So a lack of being able to see through their own eyes, through their eyes of their soul, is what's actually the cause of the discord between you. And part of that is because they've been betrayed, okay? The trickster's only power is your trust. You are always free to withdraw it, okay? And look, it's a fox again, okay? so much of this is about a fear-based thinking that has been drummed in for so long. You stop and think about history, about how many people have been destroyed, tortured, maimed, killed, all in the name of what one person decides is what they believe is the way of life. And it is hard to walk that line because you know that a lot of the, I know a lot of the things that happen are because it's a contract between two souls to get to that space of learning. But so much of what goes on in the world is all about learning the lesson through acknowledging it rather than fighting it. Okay. You don't have to necessarily go through painful things in order to learn a lesson. And it's the same with this. Social conditioning, social programming has created a divide in people that is absolutely out of control. Okay. So that is part of the problem, is the social programming. And the other thing is it's the presence of absence. They can't let go of what's gone, you know? And sadly, it's also about being afraid of losing so that you push it away in the first place. You can stay in this state. It's your choice. You don't have to. Okay? Sit down and have a conversation with your kids, with your grandkids. Stop being stubborn. Sit down and have a conversation, because I'll tell you what, the soul that's in front of you is not the age of that person that's sitting there. It's not the gender that you want them to be. It's not the label that you're putting on them. That soul is in front of you. Look in their eyes and meet them there. Open your heart, meet them there. Drop your fear, your anger, your judgment, and your blame, and have a conversation with your loved one before you lose them and end up like this, all by yourself, because that's where you're heading. And they will be loved and surrounded by people who accept them. You can be a part of that or not. It's your choice. Okay. See you again soon. Bye bye.